You've made it to another episode of the All Aware podcast on the True Rants Network. I'm your host, Nathan Roshawn, and today is a big one. In fact, I'd argue this might be one of the most important episodes we've ever done on this show because the topic we're diving into is shaping up to be one of the most ambitious, most powerful, and potentially most transformative projects the United States government has taken on in decades. Some people are calling it ambitious. Some are calling it historic. Some are calling it terrifying. And some, as usual, think there's more below the surface than anyone is letting on. I'm talking about the Genesis mission. Now, if that name already sounds dramatic, that's because it is. And trust me, by the time we're done today, you're going to understand why. You're going to understand why it has the potential to influence each and every one of us. Not in some abstract future tech sense, but in very real, concrete ways. So grab whatever you like to drink and let me walk you through the world that's unfolding right under our feet. Okay, what is the Genesis mission actually is, well, at least publicly. On November 24th, 2025, the executive branch issued an executive order signed by President Donald Trump, officially launching the Genesis mission. It was huge and controlled media stayed mostly quiet. Trump spoke of this as a monumental shift in the direction of American science and technology. In fact, the language in the executive order compares the Genesis mission to the Apollo program, the national push to put humans on the moon, and even hints at the scale and urgency of the Manhattan Project, the program that developed the first nuclear weapon. Now, before you go spouting off about those projects, yeah, I know there are problems there too, but let's pause for a second and stay on task. Because just the thought of that comparison, well, considering the fact that those projects are believed by most in their entirety should tell us something. Governments don't invoke clandestine operations like Apollo or Manhattan for fun. They don't just toss those references around lightly. They only do it when they want to signal something massive. So what's the deal? The Genesis mission is a vast effort to take the most powerful artificial intelligence systems available, not chatbots, not just language models, but full-blown scientific modeling systems, simulation engines, advanced robotics, data, and intelligence platforms, and merge all of it with the United States government's scientific infrastructure. We're talking supercomputers. We're talking high-performance computing stuff. Decades of scientific data, experiment results, climate data, materials research, fusion research, chemical data, medical models, biological data, defense-related intel, whatever you can think of, and all the stuff we don't even know about. All of that is being pooled into something the executive order calls the American Science and Security Platform. Interesting name, huh? Science and Security? They didn't call it the American Science Platform. They didn't call it the American Innovation Program. They tied science to security in the title itself. Security for we or for thee? Well, according to the order, its goal is to massively accelerate scientific discovery across a set of national priority fields. These include things like biotechnology, advanced materials, quantum information science, microelectronics and semiconductors, nuclear fission and nuclear fusion, automated manufacturing, space exploration, and more. So if you're thinking that's a lot, you'd be right. Because Genesis is not a one-lane highway. It's an entire interstate system all being built at once. Just like Dwight D. Eisenhower did with our interstate roadway system in the 50s, this administration is doing it with our internet roadways. That sounds like the beginning of a tech golden age, and probably it is. Imagine if you could simulate chemical reactions millions of times faster than current methods. If AI could search through decades of biological data and find patterns that no human researcher ever could, if scientific research suddenly leapt forward because AI models identified unknown configurations. Imagine if quantum materials were designed in weeks rather than decades. On paper, it's amazing. It's no exaggeration to say that, if executed well, the Genesis mission could be one of the most consequential scientific initiatives in history. But we have to take that eagle-eye viewpoint for a minute and step back. Because when you have a project of this size with this level of power directed by huge national security institutions driven by artificial intelligence systems that are rapidly evolving, there are always shadows. And today, in order to be all aware, we have to walk into those shadows a little bit, not to scare, not to sensationalize, but to help understand possible realities. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I have always remembered that quote by Lord Acton, a 19th century historian, about how the more power given, the more people lose touch with morals and values. I always say that line to myself when dealing with control structures because it's important to remember so not to follow that same path in my own life and leadership roles I have and am a part of. But, anyways, one of the shadows we have to walk into is regarding transparency. Right now, we only know what the executive order says. And yes, the order is public, but the data being used, the specific AI models, the experiments being run, the scope of access, the level of classification, none of that is clear. We don't know what portions of this platform will be accessible to universities, private companies, or even independent researchers. We don't know what's going to be classified behind closed doors. When a project ties science directly to security, classification tends to creep in pretty hardcore. When classification creeps in, public oversight tends to disappear, at least historically. So transparency needs to happen in real time with this. Now, obviously, certain aspects will need to remain classified because if the world knows everything, the terrorists win, as the old war rallying saying goes. Anyways, another concern is the concentration of power. My issue is when you centralize scientific data, computer resources, robotics, and AI models into one integrated system, whoever controls that system has enormous influence, not just over scientific development, but over the direction of the nation's technological future and maybe even over the right to privacy. This would be a national command structure for the future of science. Some will argue it's necessary, others will say it's dangerous, and both can be true at the same time. What about the speed this thing is launching out in? The executive order sets deadlines, 90 days for infrastructure, 120 days for something else, 240 days for assessing readiness, 270 days to show operational capability, and on and on. That is extremely fast. I mean, historically, when governments push massive programs fast, safety and ethics sometimes take a back seat. I have major questions too, and someday maybe we get an answer, but one, considering how fast AI advanced in just 2 years, is this really something they are just now developing, or is this something that has been around and it's just now so big it can't be hidden anymore? Two, why the rush? Is something chaotic heading our way? How about energy consumption? The EO includes goals for lowering energy costs and improving efficiency, but the scale of the computer energy load could strain parts of the electrical grid, which it already has. And finally, we have the human question: who benefits? Will the breakthroughs be shared broadly? Will medical advancements be accessible? Will clean energy technologies be affordable? Or will the outcomes be locked behind corporate ownership, government secrecy, or military applications? We've talked on previous episodes about secret space programs and advanced tech, so those who followed the podcast already know we've had stuff for a certain population of the planet and maybe off planet for a while. But for the common man, we don't know those answers yet. Now, before this starts sounding too dark, I want to shift into what I call the realistic possibilities, the things that could genuinely happen if Genesis reaches even half its goals. For the next several minutes, I want you to imagine both paths, the upward path and the downward one. And I want you to hold them both at once, because that's where the truth usually lives, somewhere between hope and caution. Let's talk about the positive future first. Imagine waking up 5 or 10 years from now in a world where the Genesis mission has achieved breakthroughs in medical research. AI-assisted discovery could dramatically speed up the development of new drugs, cures, vaccines, or treatments for major diseases. Conditions that today are chronic or incurable could become manageable or even eradicated. Genetic research could advance, leading to personalized medicine that's not just a luxury for wealthy hospitals, but something available in everyday clinics. Imagine clean energy becoming not just cheaper, but abundant. If AI helps unlock commercial nuclear fusion, something humanity has been chasing for over half a century, we could be looking at a world with low cost, virtually limitless clean power. That alone could reshape nations, industries, and everyday life. Food production, water purification, climate stability, all could benefit. Imagine material science breakthroughs that give us ultra efficient batteries, ultra strong lightweight materials, superconductors that work at higher temperatures, and quantum components that make computers faster and more secure. These advancements could revolutionize transportation, infrastructure, electronics, and even space travel. Imagine a new era of manufacturing where automated labs and AI-driven design make it possible to prototype, test, and produce new technologies with unprecedented speed. We could decentralize innovation so even the smallest independent creator could gain access to tools once reserved for the biggest institutions. Imagine moving into a quantum age quickly, one where medical procedures have virtually no risk. Surgeries are 99% successful, communication systems have 99% uptime, where all the small, annoying jobs we all hate to do every day can be accomplished automatically, all driven by AI accelerated research. It's stunning to think about. But now, let's step back into the other path. Let's imagine the risks. If AI accelerates biotechnology, it most likely will accelerate bad actors just as much as those with good intentions. If the platform becomes heavily classified, it could accelerate weapons research in ways the public never sees until it's too late, if ever. If power becomes overly centralized, innovation itself could become politicized or restricted to certain institutions. If environmental impacts aren't managed, the energy usage of massive computational systems could worsen the energy grid and critical infrastructure we all count on daily. And there's the philosophical question, when AI becomes central to scientific discovery, where does human creativity go? Are we designing or are we asking the machine to design for us? Does science become something humans guide or something humans observe? These questions matter, and the Genesis mission will force us to face them sooner rather than later. But I want to be clear, despite the risks, I'm not pessimistic, I'm cautious, but I'm not cynical. I genuinely believe the Genesis mission has the potential to deliver extraordinary benefits for everyone, as long as we as Americans keep our eyes open. If we stay aware of how the program is evolving, if we demand public benefit and public transparency, if we encourage collaboration, if we avoid letting secrecy swallow it whole, if we act as the parents or guardians of this evolving thing, find a way to do it so transparent, so out in the light that those who wish to use it for nefarious purposes won't have a chance to hide in the shadows, it could work. Okay. As we get close to the end of my time with you today, I want to leave you with something grounded, something reassuring, something practical. If Genesis succeeds, and if its outcomes are shared with the world, there are at least 5 ways every single human being alive could benefit. So if you didn't hear anything else I said tonight, hear this. First, with faster medical breakthroughs that would mean better health, longer lives, earlier detection of diseases, and more accessible treatments. Illnesses that once defined entire generations could fade into history. Second, cleaner and cheaper energy could reduce poverty, improve quality of life, decrease environmental damage, and stabilize electricity costs worldwide. We could essentially eliminate water shortages, homelessness, clusters of a lack of resources and electricity in remote villages. This list goes on. Third, improved materials and manufacturing systems could lead to better infrastructure, safer transportation, more efficient electronics, and more durable products for everyday use. Fourth, economic growth powered by new technologies could generate millions of new jobs in new industries, new educational opportunities, and upward mobility across society, not just in America, but worldwide. And fifth, rapid scientific progress could expand human understanding itself, helping us better understand the universe, improve our stewardship of the planet, and prepare for challenges and opportunities we haven't even imagined yet. Perhaps meeting off world life, expanding humanity to other planets, creating time for people to learn about how all life is connected and about where consciousness comes from. All of this. So, yes, the Genesis mission is ambitious, it's risky, but so was the first light bulb, the first motorized car, the first computer. It isn't something we haven't been through before as the human race. It may be time to leap to a world where artificial intelligence and scientific research are no longer separate fields, but fully integrated forces shaping the future. This is going to be my time for today. Thank you for being here with me. And if you made it this far, thank you for your curiosity, your attention, your willingness to explore the unknown. This has been another episode of All Aware, and you are all aware. Good night.